Humans are so small and weak. You cannot hope to defeat us. Tyro snarled, his reptilian eyes glinting with contempt as he towered over the rubble where Wayne crouched. The human private gripped his rifle tight, peering up at the massive Barzan sergeant. 8 feet of scaled muscle and advanced armor, just one of many invaders overwhelming the human defenses. Wayne's platoon was in a bad spot, outgunned and outnumbered by the technologically superior Barzan forces that had invaded the colony. The aliens' energy weapons flashed, tearing through concrete and steel like it was paper. Human screams mixed with the crackling of flames and the guttural roars of the attackers. "Size isn't everything, lizard," Wayne growled back. He popped up to squeeze off a burst from his rifle. The bullets sparked off Tyro's armor as the alien laughed. But Wayne knew he couldn't flinch, not with so much at stake. This colony was home to 50,000 civilians. If the Barzans won here, they'd all be killed or enslaved by the merciless conquerors. Wayne and his squad had to do something drastic to turn the tide. Their plan was to sneak into the heart of Barzan-controlled territory and sabotage their command center. A desperate play, but it was the humans' only chance. They all knew going in it was probably a one-way trip. Intel reports said the Barzans were a cruel, warlike species, not even bothering to learn the names of the lesser races whose worlds they subjugated. To them, this was just another minor conquest, not worth their full attention. The small band of human infiltrators shouldn't even register as a threat. But Wayne and his fellow Terrans were going to show them the error of underestimating humankind. Whatever it took, they had to win this. For the civilians, for the colony, for the human race's foothold among the stars. As plasma bolts sizzled overhead, Wayne grabbed his weapon and prepared to move out. One way or another, this day would be remembered, as the beginning of humanity's last stand, or the day the Barzans learned the folly of judging humans by their size. As the dust settled from the sabotage operation, Wayne and what remained of his squad staggered back to the human forward operating base. Soldiers nursing wounds helped patch up Wayne's team as they made their way to the command tent. Colonel Briggs looked up from a tactical map as they entered, his weathered face breaking into a rare smile. He clasped Wayne's shoulder. "Damn fine work out there, son. You and your boys struck a hell of a blow." Wayne allowed himself a small grin. "All in a day's work, sir." The colonel's expression turned grim. "That may be, but we're not out of the woods. Those lizards are going to be looking for payback." Briggs pointed to a live drone feed on a monitor. It showed a flurry of activity at the nearby Barzan landing zone. Vehicles and soldiers were pouring out of ships, marshaling for an attack. At the center of it, all stood a familiar hulking figure, barking orders. "Looks like your pal Tyro is back on his feet," Briggs said. "Intel indicates he's gearing up for a major offensive. Seems like he's aiming to smash us in one big push." Wayne studied the footage, an idea forming. He turned to the colonel. "Sir, I might have a plan. It's risky, but it could turn the tables." Briggs raised an eyebrow. "Let's hear it, Private." "We're still outgunned, right? But what if we capture those landing ships, use their own firepower against them?" The colonel frowned, considering. "You're talking about infiltrating a heavily guarded enemy staging ground. That's a tall order." Wayne nodded. "I won't lie, it'll be rough, but with a small team we might be able to slip through, especially if we give them something else to worry about at the same time." Briggs rubbed his chin. "A diversion to draw them out, while you sneak in the back. It's so crazy it just might work." He sighed. "I don't see many other options. You have a go, Wayne. Pick your team and get prepped." "Yes, sir," Wayne said, snapping a salute. "We won't let you down." Under cover of night, Wayne and his hand-picked squad crept through the rocky terrain around the Barzan landing site. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of battle as the diversionary attacks kicked off. "All right, stay low and move quick," Wayne whispered over the comm. "We need to reach those ships before they realize what's happening." They had just reached the perimeter when a plasma bolt sizzled past Wayne's ear. A Barzan sentry had spotted them. Wayne drilled the alien with a quick burst of fire and waved his team forward. Stealth was no longer an option. Alarms began to blare as the humans raced across the open ground. Barzan soldiers poured from the ships to engage them. Wayne and his squad mates returned fire, downing the defenders as they charged up the ramp into the nearest landing craft. Inside, they found themselves face to face with the enraged Tyro and his personal guard. The massive Barzan roared in fury. You dare to challenge me again, little human? Wayne raised his rifle. What can I say? I'm a slow learner. With a howl, Tyro lunged, and all hell broke loose in the confines of the ship. The humans ducked and weaved between the bulky aliens, using their smaller size to their advantage. Rifle fire and plasma bolts filled the air. Wayne found himself squaring off with Tyro once more. They traded blows in a brutal melee, smashing into walls and control panels as they grappled. Even wounded, the Barzan commander was monstrously strong, but Wayne held his own. In the end, Wayne managed to get the upper hand. A series of quick jabs staggered Tyro, and a final rifle butt to the head put the alien down. Wayne stood over his foe, panting. Twice now, Tyro, he said between breaths. Might be time to rethink this whole invasion thing. With the Barzan ship under their control, Wayne and his team quickly turned the craft's weapons on the remaining aliens outside. Caught off guard and suddenly under assault from their own guns, the Barzans broke ranks and fled. Cheers rang out from the human forces as they watched the aliens retreat in disarray. The improbable raid had been a success. Wayne allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Against the odds, they had struck another decisive blow. But the elation was short-lived. A shadow fell across the battlefield as a massive shape descended from the sky. Wayne looked up to see a truly enormous Barzan ship looming overhead, dwarfing the landing craft. It was a dreadnought, one of the aliens' infamous planet killers. As the behemoth settled to the ground, a new figure emerged from its yawning hatch. He was even larger than Tyro, clad in ornate armor and crackling with advanced weaponry. At his side marched a cadre of elite guards, each a match for a human squad on their own. The Barzan leader surveyed the human forces arrayed before him with contempt. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the battlefield. I am Warlord Karox. Your insolence has gone too far. This colony will be made an example to all who would defy the Barzan Empire. As the warlord strode forward, a new wave of dread rippled through the human ranks. They had held their own against the Barzan invasion up to now, but Karox and his dreadnought represented a whole new level of firepower. Wayne tightened his grip on his rifle. The fight for the colony, it seemed, was entering a far deadlier phase. And like it or not, he and his fellow humans now stood on the front line against the Barzan's most fearsome champions. This battle was not nearly finished. Wayne stared up at the behemoth of a ship looming over the battlefield. The Barzan dreadnought cast a shadow that seemed to swallow the entire colony. His stomach churned as he realized their previous victories now felt hollow. All units, fall back to defensive positions. Colonel Briggs's voice crackled over the comms. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. As Wayne's squad scrambled for cover, Warlord Karox's booming voice echoed across the landscape. Pathetic humans. Your resistance ends now. Surrender immediately or be obliterated. Inside the command bunker, Briggs switched off the transmission and turned to his officers. Like hell we will, he growled. We didn't come all this way to roll over for some overgrown lizards. Wayne and his team didn't wait for orders. They knew what had to be done. Under the cover of darkness, they slipped behind enemy lines, targeting Barzan supply depots and communication relays. Jenkins, plant those charges, Wayne whispered. Rodriguez, watch our 6. The explosion rocked the Barzan camp, sowing chaos among their ranks. Wayne's squad melted back into the shadows, only to strike again elsewhere. But the Barzans adapted quickly. During one raid, Wayne's team found themselves cornered by a heavily armed patrol. The humans used the terrain to their advantage, ducking behind boulders and using the uneven ground to outmaneuver their larger foes. Just as victory seemed within reach, a familiar roar split the air. Tyro charged into the fray, his eyes locked on Wayne. You will not escape me this time, human. Wayne thought fast. Rodriguez, pop smoke. Jenkins, with me. As Tyro barreled through the smoke cloud, Wayne and Jenkins sprinted in opposite directions. The confused Barzan hesitated, unsure which to pursue. In that moment of indecision, Wayne triggered a hidden tripwire. A massive boulder came loose, rolling towards Tyro. The Barzan sergeant leapt clear at the last second, but the distraction allowed Wayne and his team to slip away once more. Days of grueling combat took their toll on both sides. Orcs, furious at the humans' tenacity, stomped onto the battlefield himself. "Enough of this foolishness," he bellowed. "You, human, the one who bested Tyro, face me in single combat if you dare." Wayne stepped forward, ignoring Briggs's protests. "I accept." The two circled each other warily. Orcs lunged, his massive fist whistling past Wayne's head. The human ducked and weaved, conserving his energy. "Stand still and die with honor, insect," Orcs roared. Wayne said nothing, focusing on staying just out of reach. He waited for his opening, letting Orcs tire himself out with wild swings. Finally, Orcs overextended himself. Wayne darted in, driving his combat knife into a weak point in the Barzan's armor. Orcs stumbled, shocked by the precision of the strike. "Yield," Wayne demanded, his blade at the warlord's throat. Orcs' eyes burned with hatred, but he nodded curtly. A collective gasp went up from the watching Barzans. As Orcs' dreadnought prepared to glass the colony from orbit, Wayne rallied the remaining human forces. "We need to evacuate every civilian we can," he shouted. "Move!" But even as they worked to save their people, a new threat emerged. Tyro and a band of rogue Barzans stalked the outskirts of the colony, determined to claim vengeance before the bombardment began. Wayne's team raced against time, herding civilians towards the bunkers while fending off Tyro's relentless attacks. The sky began to glow ominously as the dreadnought's weapons powered up. "We're not going to make it!" Rodriguez panted as they sprinted through the streets. Wayne gritted his teeth. "We have to! Keep moving!" The first orbital strikes hit the outskirts of the colony, shaking the ground. Wayne knew they were out of time. He turned to face the approaching Barzans, buying precious seconds for the last evacuees to reach safety. Tyro's eyes gleamed with savage triumph as he closed in. "No more tricks, human. This ends now." "Now!" Tyro snarled, closing in for the kill. Wayne tensed, ready to fight to his last breath. But before Tyro could strike, Colonel Briggs' voice crackled over the comms. "All units fall back to secondary spaceport immediately. Orbital bombardment imminent." Wayne's blood ran cold. He turned to his squad. "You heard the man. Move it!" They sprinted through the crumbling streets, dodging plasma fire and falling debris. Wayne spotted a group of civilians cowering in a bombed-out building. "Rodriguez, Jenkins, get those people to the spaceport," he ordered. "The rest of you with me. We're buying them time." Wayne led his strike team to a narrow alleyway overlooking the main road to the spaceport. They rigged makeshift explosives and took up firing positions. "Hold until I give the signal," Wayne whispered. Tyro's forces charged down the street, their heavy footfalls shaking the ground. Wayne waited until they were perfectly positioned, then shouted, "Now!" The alley erupted in a storm of gunfire and explosions. Caught in the crossfire, the Barzans fell in droves, but more kept coming. "Fall back!" Wayne yelled as a plasma bolt sizzled past his ear. They retreated deeper into the city, setting traps as they went. Wayne used himself as bait, drawing Tyro into kill zones. Each time, the massive Barzan escaped by a hair's breadth, roaring in frustration. After one particularly close call, Wayne's second-in-command grabbed his arm. "Sir, that's the last of the civvies. We need to go." Wayne nodded grimly. "To the spaceport. Double time." They sprinted the final stretch, Tyro's enraged bellows echoing behind them. At the spaceport, Wayne's team frantically rigged their remaining explosives. "Sir!" a private shouted. "Incoming!" Wayne looked up to see Tyro leading a final massive charge. The two locked eyes across the battlefield. "Come on, you overgrown iguana," Wayne muttered. "Let's finish this." the air filled with plasma bolts and bullets as the two forces clashed. Wayne found himself face to face with Tyro once more. "No more running, human," Tyro growled, swinging a massive fist. Wayne ducked under the blow, landing a strike to Tyro's knee, but the Barzan caught him with a backhand, sending Wayne sprawling. As Tyro loomed over him, alarms blared. The dreadnought had opened fire. "Wayne!" someone shouted. "The shuttle!" He scrambled to his feet, sprinting for the last transport as plasma rained from the sky. Tyro lunged after him, but a stray bolt sent the Barzan stumbling. Wayne leapt aboard the shuttle just as it lifted off. Through the viewport, he watched in horror as the colony was reduced to ash. But there, amid the devastation, stood Tyro, battered but alive, shaking his fist at the retreating humans. As the shuttle jumped to warp, Wayne pursed his lips. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The shuttle's engines roared as it burst from the atmosphere of Krav-Thaler. Wayne slumped in his seat, his body aching from the brutal fight. The acrid smell of smoke and blood clung to his uniform. He stared at his hands, still trembling from the adrenaline. "Status report," he barked, pushing the memories of Tyro's final moments from his mind. "We're clear of the planet's gravity well, sir," Rodriguez reported from the pilot's seat. "No signs of pursuit yet." Wayne nodded, then turned to survey his team. Faces etched with exhaustion and shock stared back at him. Jenkins nursed a nasty plasma burn on his arm, while Kowalski pressed a bandage to a gash on her forehead. "Good work, all of you," Wayne said, his voice hoarse. "We just kicked the hornet's nest. Let's hope it was worth it." The journey back to the fleet passed in tense silence. As they approached the human ships, Wayne's comm crackled to life. "This is Admiral Nguyen. Report, Sergeant." Wayne took a deep breath. "Mission accomplished, sir. We've dealt a significant blow to Barzan morale and their command structure. But we've also escalated this conflict beyond the point of no return." A pause, then, "Understood. Dock with the Intrepid. We need to talk." Hours later, Wayne stood before a gathering of grim-faced officers in the Intrepid's war room. The holographic display showed the devastation they'd wrought on the Barzan capital. Admiral Nguyen paced before the assembled soldiers. "Gentlemen, what we've done today will go down in history. For better or worse, we've changed the course of this war." He turned to face Wayne directly. "Sergeant, your actions were unorthodox, but effective. The Barzans will be reeling from this blow for some time." Wayne nodded, feeling the weight of his choices. "What's our next move, sir?" Nguyen's face hardened. "Now we prepare. The Barzans will come at us with everything they have. We need to be ready." He activated another holo display, showing Earth and its orbital defenses. "We're heading home to regroup and rearm. Every ship, every soldier, every scrap of tech we can muster. It's all hands on deck from here on out." As the officers filed out, Nguyen held Wayne back. "A word, Sergeant." When they were alone, the Admiral's stern facade cracked. "Wayne, I know what it cost you to do what you did. Tyro was a worthy opponent." Wayne's lips pursed. "He was the enemy, sir. Nothing more." Nguyen shook his head. "It's never that simple, son. Remember that in the days to come. We're in this for the long haul now." As Wayne left the war room, his mind raced. The faces of his fallen comrades, the ruins of their colony, Tyro's final defiant roar, it all swirled together. He made his way to the observation deck, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. Rodriguez found him there, hours later. "Sir, the men are asking for you. They need something. Hope, maybe." Wayne turned from the viewport, steel in his eyes. "Then let's give it to them. We've got a war to win."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.